It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
I want to play a game.
Hello and welcome to the Sound from the Grave podcast. My name is Yussef.
My name is Vania.
And we are both proud residents of Cary, Ohio.
Absolutely, as we all know that we practically live in Halloween Horror Nights all day, every day, 365. We're thinking about it. For me, my Halloween Horror Nights mentality starts on January 1. And I'm already asking, all right, where's speculation maps? I need them.
Funny enough,
Then it goes away in November 1st. November 1st, you will see me go full Christmas mode for 2 months. And then after that, I'm back to talking about Halloween Horror Nights. So almost close to 365 days a year. So yeah.
Oh, mine never stops. As soon as like the event ends, I'm already like, okay, let's debate what we can get for next year. Like for me, it never stops. I'm obsessed. I would love to see Krampus come back just so I can experience that too. So because I missed it. I missed that shit.
I think they have a history of bringing back houses sometimes.
Yeah.
American Werewolf in London being one of them.
Yeah.
But so it's more of an IP, but it's their own IP. So I guess they're allowed to. But yeah. All that kind of jazz. Oh, but yeah, proud residents. HHN 365. How are you? Wait, wrong podcast. Anyway. So let's get this. So today we are actually covering the top 10 original houses, our top 10, because me and Yussef have different top 10s, but we can still talk about it in some shape or form. So yeah. For
sure. And I will say this, our top 10 IP houses, for me it was kind of tough to make, but this was like 10 times harder because I love so many of the originals, like so much so that I
have mixed
ended
feelings
up,
about them.
Like I love them so much that I ended up having to make honorable mentions because there were so many I wanted to include, but I was like, okay, no, I really got to narrow it down.
Yeah. That makes sense though.
Yeah, so I think, at least in my opinion, or like the way I'm rating these, it's in terms of how much I enjoyed the story behind it, how much I enjoyed the scares, the sets, and just how memorable they were to me.
Yeah.
Like I have many fond memories of a lot of these, especially like through some of our runs together on these.
Yeah.
They were pretty fun.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I just can't wait, honestly, to see what they come up with this year. Especially Scary. Scary is the heart of the horror land. If in the speculation map is true, I'm definitely looking forward to that one.
Yeah. Funny enough, actually, when I was while I was waiting for you to get ready so we could record, I was reading the interview with Michaelo and James Keaton regarding Jack, and they also said something about bringing the icons back. So it said like outside of just Jack. So I'm like, yes, please give that to me. I need it. Like now.
Yeah. Literally HHN, without bringing the icons back, is literally no HHN at all at this point. Really. Yeah. Everybody has a favorite, even if it's not Jack, and you guys gave him so much crap about, him coming back, but hey, nice kindly little fuck you to literally like Jack is still the shit. And you guys still got excited, even though he got announced. So don't at me.
Hey, I ain't judging you. I love Jack. Yeah. I'm glad he's coming back. I'm glad we're getting the icons back in general because it's been a while since we actually got an icon year again.
Yeah. So. And then on top of that, like what's throwing me off is, of course, the throwing away of the little banners with the icons. And now what are we gonna get in the tribute store now that there is no icon banner to go with that? So
it'd be cool if obviously it's gonna be really weird because I already know that they're gonna bring the Beetlejuice room back because it was so popular, but it would be cool to see if like they have how they would have those two rooms, if they did one based around like some of the icons and then the other one based around the other icon, so at least like they each have like a little time to shine. That would be pretty cool, I think.
Yeah. Like you're just hinting at the director there, but
Oh yeah, of course I am. I'm like, come on, director, let's make a movie.
Rat Daddy.
I mean,
For those of
with the
you who are listening.
name as exotic as Paulo, I'm like, oh yes, I'm in.
All right.
All right,
Time to
it's that's enough of me being.
actually go into them.
Yeah, there's the I've okay. That's enough of me being thirsty for Rat Daddy.
Rat Daddy. All right. So actually, let's get into our top 10 original houses. So, how do you want to do this?
So I'm thinking, do you
Do
actually?
you have
Let me
a? They
see.
actually have a little quarter around. You have a quarter near
A
you?
quarter, I don't, but I got an idea. All right,
What?
call heads or tails.
All right. Tails.
All right, hey Siri, flip a coin. Oh, look at that! You get to go first. We got tails.
Oh, yay. Anyway, we love technology. It does all the lazy work for us. We love
Yep.
that. Um, but anyway, for my top 10, well, number 10 technically, it is Slaughter Cinema. Is only because there's a handful of B movies that I enjoy. Not gonna name one that I freaking hate, thanks to a certain someone in the room.
What, me? What are you
But
talking
other
about?
than that, I love Solid Cinema. It was one of the houses that I mostly look forward to. Like it's more of a fun house that Universal like did, but I still very much enjoyed like the creativity behind a lot of it. And it was just fun in general because I had fun just feeling like I was walking through different movies, awfully made, but with like shitty scripts. But it was literally everything that college student would be coming out of with, especially being a hardcore horror fan. Something probably I would make. But yeah, Slaughter Cinema is definitely in my 10.
Okay.
So,
I definitely have to agree with you in terms of like how much fun that house is. Especially because we're both filmmakers, and if we were to like be put into a room and be like, here, write a horror movie, you have 10 minutes, we would come up with something like the stuff that we see in Slaughter Cinema. Honestly.
I think my favorite of a lot of it is definitely the Amazon woman from outer
Oh
space.
yeah, that one's really
Those are my
cool.
favorite.
I really
Like I
like
was
that
just like,
one.
damn, like I slay for those, and especially the sorority one. I forgot the
I
name
think
of
that was
that
my
one.
favorite one, the sorority one. Like
Yeah, the sorority
sorority,
one was really
I can't
cool.
remember the name, but yeah, it was really fun. I like that one, and I also liked. I think one of my favorite things about it too was like the whole facade with the drive-in and like all the really crappy like shitty
Yeah,
trailers for him.
yeah.
Especially, I think my favorite one of the trailers was Shitty's Kids.
Shitty's Kids literally makes me laugh, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how are you guys getting away with this? But then again, this is not a kid-friendly
Like,
event. Hi, how are you?
so I would formally request anybody, and I will commission you for this. I want a Shitty's Kids, either a like a shirt or a sticker, or if you're like super creative, a poster. I would commission you gladly for any of those things because I want to hang that up on my wall and just like have it as a conversation piece and be like, "Why do you have shitty? What is this? Why do you have Shitty's Kids on your wall?" I'm like, "Oh, sit down. I'm about to tell you a story."
I was like, oh, it's concerning of like Yusef's really interesting taste in movies. No, anyway, kidding. But yes, Slaughter Cinema is my number 10.
Yeah.
So what about yours?
So my number 10 is a house that came out pretty recently, and that was Carnival Graveyard. Carnival Graveyard was really, really fun. I liked the entire idea of the whole abandoned circus stuff. Um, I liked a lot of the callbacks to Jack in that house.
Oh
There were
yeah, a
because
lot
it
of
was essentially Jack the Easter egg house.
yeah. There's a lot of like rust and copper and a
Yeah, for
lot of like
sure.
really like noise. It's like a lot of graveyard noise.
Yeah.
Not graveyard noise,
Like
like a lot of junkyard
yeah,
noise
exactly.
for sure.
And there was a lot of ambition in that house. Like you had the that whole thing with the clown that was supposed to be like an animatronic, but of course he's like on the bungee cord and he like jumps down at you, which I thought was really cool. The whole
Yeah.
thing where you have to like go around the truck. I'm like, that's some pretty impressive like set pieces, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
And it also
definitely was
had
fun.
oh yeah, and not to mention like all the little fun like interactive stuff, like guest interaction was really cool too. There was plenty
Yeah,
of like triggers and stuff like that we could play with. It made it
I
a lot
think
of
my
fun.
favorite. the electricity that they would like
Yeah, yeah,
go
that was really
against the
cool.
freaking like
The
fence. I was
chain
like,
link
oh
fence, yeah.
man, that shit was cool as fuck.
Yeah. It's definitely what like kept me going back was like trying to, like find all the little Easter eggs, try to press all the triggers and like that it was just so much fun having to go back to that house like over and over again.
Yeah. The one thing that always got me that I always watched out for him because he would just come out of literally nowhere was the one that was towards the beginning. He was a really tall guy.
Mhm.
Oh my god! Like it was like near that whole Jack blanket thing.
Mhm.
He was a big ass guy with like these metal things. I'm like, oh my god! And then he's like towering over me, and I'm like this short ass bitch, and I'm like, god damn! Like he gets me every time, and I'm like, I know you're gonna come out, and then of course. When you say that, they just come out at you anyway because they know that you are a squish middle. If you know anything about scare acting anatomy, there's the alpha, there's the squish middle, and then the alpha beta, they're just there for the ride, and they just kind of watch everybody get scared. So yeah, scare acting anatomy.
I think I've been at one point I have been all three of those and I honestly I love it.
Yeah, nah, I'm always squish middle,
Squish middle.
always squish middle. Unless it's like an icon's house or anything with clowns, then I'm like the alpha because
Mm.
clowns don't scare me. I think they're great, but
So
yeah,
you know what? I think that's actually going to be our hashtag squish middle for this episode. So when you
squish
hear,
middle.
yeah, so when you talk about this hashtag and reach out to us, I want you guys to tell us your best stories when you were a squish middle. Because
Yes, I would love to hear that.
yes, I would love to hear people's experience being a squish middle.
Yeah. Basically, you're the one that is hiding behind people because you're scared in a haunted house.
Pretty much.
Yeah. But anyway, I think I go for number 9.
Yes, you are
That
up.
makes sense. So for my number 9, it is HR Blood and Guts, Holidays of Horror, and Halloween Horror Nights 21, because it is very similar to Slaughter Cinema, except that instead of having B movies, well, it's kind of like a B rated television series,
I from what
a
you've like
marathon kind of
yeah,
thing.
like the from the way you've described it to me and like the way I've like looked it up on the research, it sounds like the entire house is like a premise for a B movie.
Yeah,
And I
so
it's
you're
pretty cool.
just
I like that.
walking through each and every holiday, and literally, I think the one that stuck out to me the most was also the Easter Bunny, the very bloodied up Easter Bunny. And then there was the Santa Claus with the evil elves. And of course, like you just see Santa Claus just fucking ripped up and dead. And you see reindeer parts. It was great. Like I loved it. So, but it was just fun. It was a fun little take on the holidays, and especially the fact that through before each room you saw like a little clip of the holiday before going into the room. So
Hmm.
you just kept walking into the same kind of like a Happy Death Day kind of vibe where you just like you see a holiday, then you go into a living room with the television in it that shows you the next one. Then you go into that room, go into the next living room with the television promoting the next holiday, and it keeps going like that until you reach, of course, New Year's. I do remember a lot about the New Year's one, which is weird. But yeah, it was still a fun house, and I think I enjoyed it a lot because I just enjoyed that whole B movie television vibe. And HR Blood and Guts was just a funny character in general, a non icon character, but we all love him and we all simp over him apparently.
I
But
think
yeah,
we can call them. I think it's similar to the Voodoo Queen. We would call them like a non-icon icon.
yeah,
So,
he's still iconic. But yeah,
but it's time for me to move on to my number 9, and that is Scarecrow the Reaping.
a Scarecrow the Reaping, really? Why is it
Oh,
so low down there?
because there's like so many more that I want to talk about, but okay, this is actually the first house on this list because I think there are like 3, no, there's 4 houses on here that are in the exact same location that they use every year, and you know about this. You know about my theory that this location is always cursed for me. I think it's like one of the sprung tents every year. The sprung like one of the I think it's sprung tent 2 always has my favorite house of the year, almost always.
Yeah, they always hide it back there, honestly.
And
It used to
I
be
don't know
right
what it
behind.
is.
It used to be right behind. Going back to the HR Blood and Guts. It used to be that every time it was a comedy type house, it was behind Beetlejuice Graveyard Review.
Mm.
But now it seems like the new comedy house, it always tends to be behind Men in Black sometimes, or if not, it's behind Fear Factor.
Hmm.
So it's now those are like the new comedy spots. But normally it was always without a doubt behind Disaster or um, Juice Graveyard Review.
Yeah.
But but yeah, so those locations do have their own little
There's like a
theme
there's
to
like
it,
a
kind of.
yeah, it's like a weird history to those little areas, like almost like
Yeah,
Poltergeist, where they're like on a specific type of land that Universal has that's like cursed, and that's why they
yeah,
have to put certain houses there because they're like, okay, this will be better because it's cursed.
yeah.
But yeah, like when it comes to Scarecrow the Reaping, I think what I really like about these types of houses are like the environments. I really like how far they go with creating all these beautiful, just so immersive environments where I completely forget that I'm in a haunted house sometimes and I'm just in this moment of like, hey, I'm in this abandoned like wheat farm and I'm literally being attacked by living scarecrows. Like especially just walking into it when you immediately get scared by the boo holes and like the dropping boo holes that
Yeah,
always
they're
get
so
me. Those
loud
things
in
always
that
get me.
hole.
Then there's the the bird dropping room where you can feel like the bird droppings on you and like they drip on you and stuff, and that's
Yeah,
terrifying because it's so immersive. Then there's like the big cornstalk area with the silo and like three scarecrows pop out of there, and it's like I just remember so many of these scenes and just the ambition behind it too, because like it's a straight up like cornfield that they build.
yeah. I mean, like it was definitely like super loud, super immersive, and like it was the most claustrophobic house I've ever felt. Like honestly, I don't think I've ever been to a house so close to scare
Hmm.
actors, so close, narrowly down. It was incredible. I love that
Yeah.
house.
And I remember like the first time I went on that house, the moment I walked out, my first thought was I didn't like that. Not because I thought it was like a bad house, just because I got the majority of the scare actors. So I
Yeah.
was just I felt like I was traumatized by the end of it.
We love that though. We love when we get every scare, and that
Yeah.
normally happens when there's not a conga line. When there's not a
Oh yeah.
conga line, you kind of tend to get every scare,
Yeah.
because they don't want to miss out on an opportunity to scare someone. So felt that.
Yep. But now it is time for your next house.
In my number 8,
Oh boy.
Revenge of the Tooth Fairy.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I
Revenge of the
have.
Tooth.
Please tell me why. Please tell me why this is your favorite.
It's an 8. It's pretty low.
Because if it was up to me, this wouldn't be in this list at all. At least this current,
I personally,
at least
I don't know.
the current incarnation, the HHN Lite version, it would be nowhere near that list for me. But who knows? That might change.
Yeah, but for me, I personally liked Revenge of the Tooth Fairy, and it seems like I just keep mentioning it in the podcast, and I'm just gonna get more shit for it. Is because like it has that scary tale vibe. The facade fucking sells me, and like it's just I'm in love with like allures of innocent things, and it just turns ugly, and I love it, and it's gruesome, and the fact that the little crotch goblin gets turned into a tooth fairy because he didn't want to give his stupid tooth. Selfish little prick. I love it. Torment kids, kill the family. It's everything for. It's a beautiful fairy tale recipe for disaster, and I love it. And the fact that for me, I also have a soft spot for short girls who get casted into these houses, and they just look great, just doing what they do. I love anything with like short characters. They're kind of like me, and they just like being little gremlins, little pieces of shit of gremlins. I love it. Like I the it this is just a personal thing, and the fact that the Tooth Fairy is just a very gruesome little creature that it just has such an interesting story, and the fact that it's so immersive. For me, it was super immersive. I think I just have a personal attachment to stuff like that. But yeah, it's like scary tales. I know that like in scary tales we see each house, like each not each house, each fairy tale through a room, but this is Tooth Fairy could have easily just gotten a room.
Okay.
Easily.
I don't really agree with that. I at least in my I just don't love the house. I don't really like the design of the tooth fairies, and but
I do.
there's no reason for me to beat a dead horse. But we will be discussing a dead horse later. But anyway, I will definitely give you the facade. The facade is incredible. It's one of the best facades I've ever seen for a Horror Nights house.
Yeah.
Not like par none. Like by far one of the best ones.
Yo, Tooth Fairy cast, if you're listening, fucking kill it this year, or else I want to change their minds.
I will. You know what? I will give you the benefit of the doubt. If Tooth Fairy comes back, which I'm thinking it will, if and it scares me enough, I might consider giving it the pass and being like, okay, you know what? It was I changed my opinion. It's much better than I thought it was gonna be.
No, I wonder now that there are the I feel like a lot of brides boo holes will come back,
I think so too. Yeah.
but Tooth Fairy, if they do come back, I feel like they have to change it up because
Yeah. And like I said,
boo
you
holes
could.
were really real. They're gonna be really noticeable, especially for us that have been through it
Mhm.
so many times.
Yeah.
That if they add different boo holes like that, I feel like it would be a lot better and more unexpected. And I know that
Hmm.
they did do it according to CDC guidelines for what can and cannot do. So yeah.
Yeah. And not to mention that there's a lot of stuff that you could tell was missing, like
Mm-hmm.
because there was no way around like the social distancing thing. So they were like, okay, we can't put it in there. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm hoping there's a lot. It's like a completely different house by the time it comes back. So
Changed
yeah.
their mind.
But
Get it.
anyway, my number 8 is one of my personal favorites. It's one of my brother's favorites too, and that is Gothic.
Now, I do and do not remember this house. It is
Okay.
very weird. It because there's some originals that stick out to me, like fucking, but that Gothic Winter's Night, which is a lot of people's favorite, are just houses that I just don't remember. Unless, please describe it to me, or maybe
Okay.
something will come back in my little putrid middle school brain. Apparently,
Jesus.
so.
So Gothic is the one that's set inside of a church, where all the gargoyles came to life. And it had a room in 25 for Monsters and Mayhem. There was an area dedicated to it, and it had such a good scare in 25, and they had used it originally in the original Gothic too. Again, it's one of those things where the facade was really cool because like the moment you saw it, it was just this huge like cathedral similar to like Notre Dame. Like it had that
Yeah.
vibe to it, but like even like completely distressed, and like you could tell that it hadn't been maintained for like hundreds of years. And the gargoyle scares were so effective because they always changed them around. So they would put the statues in different areas. So you were every single time you went, the characters would be in different spots.
Yeah.
Not to mention again the bungee statue that would come at you, which was really
Oh,
cool.
yeah.
And then the motherfucking bungee actor that shows up on your sides because it's like the one of the last scenes. It's like you're on the top, like on the rooftop of the cathedral, and some of these motherfuckers are flying at you from the sides because it looks like they're coming from the night sky. Oh
Yeah.
my god, especially because you don't see them, like they just come out of the blackness and then all of a sudden they're just like right in front of you, and you're like, oh hell no, this thing is gonna eat me.
Yeah. What was the house that had like these creatures? They were female. That it just the bungee came at you and then they would go right back, and it had like a little hole that you saw them through, but they weren't.
Ooh, I
Like
do
like
not remember
it's
that.
there. Like I remember the scene. I just don't remember the house. I was like, damn, like, but they need to use the bungee cords things more effectively for
Bungee
sure.
cords are pretty effective scares in my opinion,
Yeah.
and I know this from Petrified too. Petrified really got me with a lot of those.
Hell yeah, what's up?
Yeah, but yeah, Gothic is really good. It's one of those houses where I wish I could get a time machine and go back and just experience that house again.
hmm
But yeah, that's my thoughts on Gothic.
And I see, like, I just wish I remembered it more. Like, the way you were talking about it was like, okay, like I see it, but it's like I wish I can go back and experience it to like actually remember what it was. But yeah, um, number seven
Yep,
for
number
me
seven, lucky number seven.
is one that completely traumatized me because we're there when this happened. I think the first time I went through with it was with you,
Okay,
and I came out crying,
I
and
gotta
it
know.
was Seeds of Extinction.
Oh my god, Deeds of
Uh,
Extinction.
Seeds of Extinction, like I think the concept is really cool, the story. But I really hate when I can't tell when they're gonna come out. The plants were so effective, the camouflaging, and the fact that they had like kind of like Dead Waters, they had like the slanted walk,
hmm
but you
Yeah,
still brought you a little closer to the scare actor, which was not fun. And
yeah.
this house had me crying every time I literally came out because it was so scary to me. I don't like the fact that I can't see, but the reason why it's in my top 10 because it was a memorable house that it's gonna stay with me because it scared me so bad. And like I didn't think nature can be terrifying, but apparently nature can be terrifying, especially during a whole little experiment infection kind of bullshit going around in nature, and it's so creepy. I hate it so much, but it was. I think this was also the first time they used the back office's house
I think like the
for
parade, like one
that.
of the yeah, like the same one of
Yeah,
these for Universal Monsters. Yeah,
it's the one next. It was next to the parade, the old parade.
yeah.
Uh,
Funny, funny enough, that's also my
but
number seven.
oh, nice.
Yeah, this was a great house. Again, it's one of those things where I really liked how the scare actors were really well hidden, um, wearing those damn ghillie suits because they were
Yeah,
super effective. They were really good at hiding. Um, I like the Easter eggs in that one too. It had a good amount of Easter eggs. I remember seeing an Easter egg for I think it was like Lightning Gulch, which is a house from 21. It's like an old west type thing.
yeah,
And again, I'm all for these big set pieces. I really like the one where you're going, like I think it's next to a either a crash plane or a crash helicopter. I don't remember which one it was, but I remember being like super amazed by that and being like, wow, they have a straight up crashed aircraft. I just can't remember which one. I'm like, that's
yeah.
again the ambition behind that and just like the amount of care put into these houses is so amazing to me. But
Yeah,
yeah,
so
I was a huge sucker for that house. I was a really big fan of those hidden scare actors, and I know you. It's one of those things where you hate the scares, but at the same time you love them
yeah,
because you're
just
like, you know what? I wasn't expecting you. I hate that you scared me, but at the same time, I gotta give you props for being that good at scaring me.
yeah. Like just ask Yussef. Every time came out in tears, bawling my eyes out. Like and I need like 5 minutes to recover, and then I'm good. They're like and then every time they would say, "Let's go to Seeds of Extinction," I'm like, "No, do we have to?" Please. But yeah,
That was yeah, I like that house. But
all
what's
right.
your number six now?
That December 7 went quick. It was like there,
Yeah, because
right
you had the
there.
same
Seeds of
one, so yeah,
Extinction.
we were
Yeah.
able to go through it pretty quick.
All right. So number six for me is Graveyard Games. It is an amazing house. I definitely love the cemetery vibe to it, especially the just the story behind it. Just these punk ass kids want to play in the fucking cemetery, want to play with spirits. Hey, the dead is gonna come back at you. And I like the whole concept of social media, like their fake Facebook, their fake Twitter, like basically like an off brand, of course, because they don't want to get sued, copyright, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. No fair use, no fair use. Sorry, but it was definitely a creative way to like get us immersed, especially for people who can relate to the social media world and people going to those places for clout, but eventually something goes wrong and they get the dead literally get a piece of their minds and they literally turn these little shits and
Oh yeah.
they're out to play. And one of my favorite scenes, definitely the kids scene, where all the children are.
Hmm.
I think that it is very well hidden. They have really good, like again, short scare actors. They look exactly like kids, and they just scared the ever living crap out of me. And I also like the statue ones as well. Those statue ones are
Yeah.
super good.
Almost every single year that they do like statue scare actors, they do such a good job picking those actors because they are so good at not moving a single muscle.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what they teach them in scare acting boot camp.
Yeah. But yeah, that house is really good. I really liked it. I liked the whole social media aspect of it. The scares were really, really good. I don't want to get into too much detail because it's actually in my list somewhere in here, and I want to talk more about that when I get to that section of my list. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. It's one of it's a really good house, like really, really good house. Like I know it's like one of people's favorites, and I definitely understand why. But
I
yeah,
like it. So what's
yeah, I can't.
your number 6?
Mine, I know the Scream Queens are really gonna like this one because my number 6 is Run, Blood, Sweat, and Fears because I gotta represent our leather or chainsaw leather daddy, Eddie.
Chainsaw Leather Daddy. That's sadly another one that I don't remember a lot of.
This is the one I remember.
Sadly.
I remember the whole vibe of it because it was very much 80s, very much like Running Man, like the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
Yeah.
Um, I think my like one of my first distinct memories of it is going into it. I think it's like my second or third run through of it, and as I'm walking in, I hear "Run Like Hell" by Pink Floyd, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is gonna be the best run I've had so far. Because like I'm a huge Pink Floyd fan, and like "Run Like Hell" is a song that will definitely get you pumped up for what you're about to experience.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I just liked how different each room was. And funny enough, when I was listening to the Scream Queens episode on it, it brought back so many great memories. Like the Japanese killer, which was like behind all the papers, like the paper sliding doors. Excuse me, and how they used like the paper fans as weapons and stuff like that. I thought that was really cool. Of course, I gotta love the flannel Canadians because they were so freaking awesome. And the Brazilian one, like the plague one that like spit acid and stuff. I'm like, like they were so inventive because I really liked how each room was different and also how each of the killers in each room were related to their country in some form or fashion. And I thought that was like really cool of like representing all these countries. It was like an evil version of Epcot's World Showcase.
Oh my god.
Like that's what it felt like.
Really wish I remembered a lot of it because I guess like back, I didn't start doing Frequent Fear until Halloween Horror Nights 27.
Mm.
So most of my time at Halloween Horror Nights, I ran through the houses once, maybe twice when they invited us back because of hurricane season. But yeah, so the one original houses that I go through, if I remember them, they stuck to me like glue.
Mm.
But like, and then after that, I've been not so lucky to experience them again. So it's either I'm really scared and I don't want to look, or like, I mean, I was a kid. I've been going to Howling Horror Nights since I was a kid, but there's some houses that, of course, as a kid, when I went through them, I looked. It scared me, but it definitely was effective. So I really wish that run was literally one that I remember because I know that a lot of people talk a lot about it, and I'm just like, I wish I paid attention more. As stupid bratty ass was probably too scared. So yeah.
Yeah, it was a great house. I liked it.
Mm.
But what
All
is
right.
your next selection there?
So for my number 5, it was. I had a hard time differentiating if this is an original.
Okay.
It's weird,
Okay.
because it's technically public domain now,
Okay.
and so it is Nevermore: The Madness of Poe.
I had a feeling I
Oh,
had a feeling that was going to be in your list at some point because I keep hearing very very good things about that house. But
yeah.
yeah, it's one of those I never got to experience. It was a year that I didn't get to go. But please enlighten me as to what that house was like.
So with Nevermore: The Madness of Poe, it's weird because on that same year, I was either a junior or senior in high school. We had just learned about Edgar Allan Poe, and I'm like, emo literature daddy, yes please. Like we love that
Oh my
shit.
god, emo
I
literature daddy.
don't like we love that.
That's
Oh well,
amazing.
there's another one. That's another one. So yeah, with Nevermore, it was amazing because I just learned about Edgar Allan Poe, so it was cool to actually learn about it, then have an event about it, and all that stuff. So then when I went into that house, you run through each and every least popular poem or story about that Edgar Allan Poe had wrote. This is including the famous Telltale Heart story that everybody likes. You see what was crazy about that scene. That scene was like my favorite, honestly, because there was this room that it was like a normal setting, like a bedroom setting,
Hmm.
normal, looks normal. But then when you look up at the ceiling, you see the same reflection, but that the floorboards are ripped open and you saw the body parts, the dismemberable body parts on the ceiling.
Whoa.
So you had to look up to like see like the disassembled body of the guy that the butler, I think it was, like that he killed his master. And then you see the Mask of the Red Death. You go into a ballroom that's all red, and you see like a little red, kind of like a plague doctor looking dude
Hmm.
that was just running around the room. But then there was dancers that were still, of course, some of them were mannequins, and then the dancers would come at you. And then right in the middle was Edgar Allan Poe dancing, like
Whoa. That's
basically
really
like
cool.
classical, like whatever. And then but it's like he's in his own story kind of
Hmm.
thing. Then there was the story, of course, of Annabelle Lee, I guess, unburying a body. I don't know what that story is about. That's really gross, guys. But yeah, it was a great house, especially that you get to run through a lot of the stories of Edgar Allan Poe. And I actually haven't read the rest of his. I mean, I've read a lot of it later, but I just didn't wasn't able to identify those other stories at the time because I had only studied the Telltale Heart and the Mask of the Red Death
Okay.
or story. So the rest was super cool. It was really nice, especially the facade. It was all of his writing, but it created his face.
Oh
So it
yeah,
was just
yeah, I've seen the pictures of it. I'm like, that is a really cool looking facade.
yeah. So it's like we're actually like walking into his stories and stuff. So yeah, he lived a very depressing life.
Yeah, he
He was an
truly did.
alcoholic,
Yeah.
and the fact that every year on his birthday, someone leaves him a bottle of booze and flowers on his grave, and nobody still knows who the fuck it is. So it's kind of weird. You would think that they already find out, especially since there's like hardcore Edgar Allan Poe fans out there, which
Yeah.
is why had a hard time differentiating if this was an original or technically an IP because it is public
Um
domain,
I
but
think I would categorize it in the
yeah.
same way as like Bloody Mary, where they took a something that already existed in the world and they kind of did their own like interpretation of it and kind of built an original story around it.
Yeah.
I think that would be a better way. That's why I would give that as an original because even though it's something that it was already existing, they did their own spin on it. They made it an original in their like in their own way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for
But
sure.
yeah,
You just
I
saw a lot of like scare actors that just looked like Edgar Allan Poe throughout the house, and I thought that was super fucking
yeah,
cool.
I thought that was. I really wish I could have experienced that house. Granted, I think at the time I wouldn't have had a a bigger appreciation for it than I think I would if I were to go on it now.
Yeah.
Because now that I've read through quite a bit of Edgar Allan Poe's writings, I think I would have appreciated it a lot more now. Now that I like know a lot of the
Yeah.
background, like a lot of the stories themselves. Um, but also on a side note, how terrifying would it be if like they brought it back, but instead of being Edgar Allan Poe, it was Poe from the Teletubbies?
This is why we can't have nice things.
Listen, if you're not watching this on YouTube, you are just missing Vania giving me like the disappointed mom look as to like, why does this kid say the dumbest shit?
It is what it is. This is what I have to put up with. It's okay. It's fine. We'll
Oh,
live.
you love
I
it.
promise.
You love it.
Anyway,
Okay, anyway, outside of that,
you're number 5.
moving on to our five, we're getting close. My number five is Graveyard Games.
Yay, there it
Yeah,
is.
Graveyard Games is so much fun. It was actually one of the houses that I got to go in by myself, because it was just before closing time on one of the nights that I went, and they were like, "Yeah, just go through it. You're gonna be like one of the last ones in." I was like, "All right, cool." Boy, was that a mistake. Because
Yeah.
I got every single scare actor, and because I was by myself, they decided to just ignore the triggers at that point and just kept coming after me because they saw that I
Oh
was just
man.
terrified.
That's awesome. Oh, I love those
Yeah.
experiences. I still haven't gone by myself. I would be caught dead going by myself. But yeah.
It was really cool. I really like the whole story behind it. I like the social media aspect of it. I remember just loving the first thing that you see when you go inside, which is like this big iron gate going in through this mausoleum, and immediately these little punk ass bitches come up and spray you with like an aerosol can in the face, and immediately start like laughing at you, and I'm like, bitch, don't wanna get me
Yeah.
started now.
Love actors that stay and then they
Yeah.
actually keep their cool when we're insulting them. It's great.
But
Appreciate you guys.
yeah, that was really cool. The ghosts were really imaginative. Like they were all really cool, really different. There was the absolutely terrifying black hallway, which I
I hated that.
absolutely
Why do they
hated.
like?
I
They always like putting
absolutely
those black.
hated it because I we, as you know, if you've been listening for a while, both of us have a weird thing with the dark. We have a fear of the dark, and it was the
Yeah,
worst.
I do have a
Like
fear of the dark.
it's
Yes.
effective when it plays on like one of your actual fears, and it totally did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for
I mean, I
that,
feel like it made it worse with well, personally to
mhm,
me in another house that I'm gonna mention later. But that every time they have a black room, it's just like, oh my God, what's gonna come at me? Who's gonna touch me? Well, obviously they're not allowed to touch you, but accidental touches during run-throughs happen.
mhm,
So yes.
yeah, but it's definitely one of my top houses for sure. Otherwise, it wouldn't even be on the list. But what is your number four?
My number 4 is Jack Presents 25 Years of Monsters and Mayhem.
Okay,
Yeah, so
all
it's
right,
number
yeah.
4.
Tell me about that one.
Because, of course, we have a lot of the houses from years past, how they all had a role inside of this house, and we walk into the prop warehouse, and we're just seeing all these different things from all the different years, kind of thing. And yeah, and we actually see different scenes from past years, and I liked it. And you get to see Jack in different outfits again, and I love it. And all this other stuff. There's just a lot. There a lot in the house is hard to like described. I think my favorite room was definitely like all the jacks lined up, of course, fake and new.
Yeah.
Just in that house, and they're just coming at you, and I'm pretty sure it just took them a lot of time just getting those jacks ready to all look identical and no and act the same, which is great.
Yeah, I really like that house. I think the reason it's not in my top 10 is because some of the rooms and some of the experiences on there are things that I never got to experience before they were on this like compilation house.
Yeah,
So I didn't have as big as an appreciation of what they were before.
yeah,
So that's why as much as I like the house, I felt like if I had more of that familiarity with it, I would have been a lot more entertained by it. But don't get me wrong, it's a great house. I loved it.
yeah.
My favorite scene being the psycho scary Home for the Holidays scene with like the evil Santa Claus with the chainsaw.
Oh yeah, that
And
was good.
the fucking Run DMC Christmas song playing in the background was pure gold.
Oh my god, it was it was just crazy.
Yeah.
I really liked that house, and it was a really good way to sum up all the rest of the years of Halloween Hornets. So yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. But what is on your number for?
Okay. My number 4 is going back to the Sprung tent. We're gonna talk about that at the Dead Horse, and that is Nightingale's Blood Pit.
Fucking
That
hate that
one that
house.
one's controversial because I know a lot of people didn't really like it.
I didn't
I
like it because it scared me too much. It scared me too fucking much. Too
I
fucking much for its own good.
funny enough, this was actually my favorite house of HHN 29. I
Interesting.
adored this house. I just loved everything about it. I love the facade with like the guy impaled on the stake, and then the Nightingale just going to town on eating this horse, which was really cool. And then just the immersiveness of it. I know a lot of people hated it, but I kind of loved the awful smell through that entire house.
Oh my god, it just smelled
The
awful. I wanted to
smell of just
throw
blood
up.
everywhere, and I'm like, honestly, I kind of like it.
Love that.
Again, this is actually the other house that I got to go in by myself. And at one point, I actually got really disoriented, and I almost ran into a wall.
Fuck.
Yeah. And again, the scare actors were like him because it's just him. So let's have some fun with this one.
Oh my god. Yeah, that house, I couldn't open my eyes. It was just awful. The first time it got me so bad that I just didn't want to open. Every time that people were like, "Let's go to Nightingales," I'm like, "Oh great, great, shut my eyes,
Time for
got
me to
it."
die.
Yeah, time for me to shut my eyes. The entire house.
Yeah, I like the setting of it because I hadn't really seen a house like set during like the Roman Empire and the Colosseum and all that stuff. So I thought that was really cool. Some of the sets were really cool, like the one where you're underneath the actual Colosseum and you hear like people screaming and like swords and stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool. The Nightingales were pretty creepy in my opinion.
Yeah, they were
Yeah, I really liked
disgusting.
it. I just thought
Fucking
it was really
disgusting.
immersive. It was really chaotic too because like the noises were all so loud that like you were really just disoriented the entire time through. Like you just felt like you were in the middle of this almost like apocalyptic event of like these giant winged vulture creatures
Ro-
just
They're
killing
Roman
everything and
times.
everybody in sight.
Roman times. It's like we're underneath the Colosseum, and this is what they keep underneath. Oh, we love that.
Like damn.
I'm like, okay, like this is what. Oh, you lose the Colosseum thing. Yeah, all right. We're gonna give you a real challenge. Here's our birds. Have fun. Call motherfucker. But
Oh man,
yeah,
now I
so
just need a house about Moira and the Ravens for Schitt's
oh my
Creek.
god, no.
And it's just the entire house is just her dressed up in her Raven costume.
Oh my god. Anyway, so number
3?
Three.
Yeah.
So my number 3 is something we already talked about. It's way higher up there than it was for Yusuf, but Scarecrow the Reaping.
Okay.
Because, of course, for obvious reasons, as I stated earlier, claustrophobia, I mean, I'm not claustrophobic. No, I learned that the hard way. Have you guys ever had an MRI? Yeah, horrible. Like, literally is just no space, the loud music, loud noises, loud music, as in sound effects. Um, Scarecrows coming at you, big, tall guys. I can tell that they were super uncomfortable in their blue holes, but man, did they make it work. It was just literally the most uh, disoriented house that I've ever been to, especially with like he said, we have stated earlier, they have this tendency to put us in dark rooms, then throw shit at us, and with the crows. So yeah, that felt awful, and I was like, damn, it's like having things that you don't want on you when you don't know what's there. So yes, so it is Scarecrow. Me number 3. We already talked about a lot of this, but just a little refresher of why
Yeah.
I like it so much. It was just definitely. It felt like a very Halloweeny house. This one actually felt very Halloweeny
Oh,
to me,
definitely. It
which
definitely
I
had the
definitely.
they definitely had like that fall Halloween feel to it.
Yeah, it was scary, but
Yeah. Very
yeah,
very
Halloween.
much like the Twisted Tradition scare zone. Like it felt
Oh yeah,
like Twisted Tradition felt like a continuation of Scarecrow.
yeah. Which I feel like that's what lingers in the fields, and then much more in the lore. So
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. But what is number 3?
So my number 3, we're gonna keep it in the same spot. A damn sprung tent. And that is Dead Exposure Patient Zero.
All right.
Dead Exposure Patient Zero was one of the most disorienting, most terrifying things I ever experienced. Um, again, it's one of those things where I like the facade of the whole like medical compound, like under lockdown type thing, which I thought was really cool. Like
Yeah.
even as you're walking in, you see like the medical tent with all these like stretchers and everybody, just a bunch of people in body bags, other people with like infections and stuff, and I'm like, ooh, that is like so creepy. Especially now, you're like, that's even more creepy.
Yeah, it's weird because I think the backstory is what got to me for dead
Hmm.
exposure. It's just the fact that you are a patient and you're kind of like going blind in a sense, and
Yeah,
it's
it was
just like
so weird.
it felt like you were getting infected in some shape or form. But I remember on opening weekend, they had a lot of injuries in that house, lots and
I
lots.
figured, yeah, because it was the strobe lights could get a little much for some people, and they could really get
The stepping was
disorienting.
awful. The stepping.
Hmm.
Whatever you were stepping on was fucking awful. Like I mean, I'm not saying that they were irresponsible because I feel like they slowed down the strobes a little bit
Hmm.
after opening weekend. But damn, it was a very disorienting house.
Yeah.
But I liked it. I liked it though.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things about it were like some of the really cool scenes. I think like the first scene was going through the animal testing cages where all the monkeys are just going insane.
Yeah,
And that was terrifying because I didn't know if some of those monkeys were just the noises or if some of them were like little robot like animatronics just moving a little bit with like the cages or
yeah.
the strobe lights, which I thought was really good. It was a really good use of the strobe lights. And of course the fucking train subway thing,
Oh, that shit
which was
throws
it
me
was weird
off.
because it was like a diagonal, or at least it felt diagonal because you were going like from one end of the like almost like you're going from
Train.
one of the automatic doors on the subway to like an automatic door that's like two doors away. It felt kind of like
Yeah.
that. And of course there were scare actors like sitting on the seats of the subway, and they were hiding too because they would keep switching around on them. Um, but yeah, like it for me it was disorienting in a good way because I was like, okay, I definitely feel like I'm going blind with this.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
weird. The only message that didn't come across to me very well was like the skeleton looking scare actors that were in that one room.
Yeah, I
It
wasn't
was
too
a little
sure about
random,
those.
randomly put there. I'm like, what are you guys?
Yeah,
Like,
I'm thinking
I
it might
want
have
to
been.
understand why.
I'm thinking it might have been like effects of the infection where you're like having hallucinations before you start losing your vision or something.
Yeah,
But
it's also interesting. I mean, I was like, that's a
yeah,
weird placement to put there. Like, I liked the whole white room with the blood on it
yeah, that was
and
really
all this
cool.
other stuff, and I was like, holy shit! Like, this is what it looks like when I die. This is what it looks like. Like,
And
this is what the
I
last thing
also
looks
really
like.
liked that it was actually a prequel to a house from my first year from 18.
Yeah,
Because
I've never been there. Yeah,
there was
I
an
didn't
old
go until
house.
19.
Yeah, there was an old house there called Dead Exposure, and it was a very similar type of experience because this time you were following a news reporter or like a cameraman for a news station, and or for a new yeah for a newspaper, and the only time you would see what was going on in the house is whenever he would take a picture, so you would get the flash of the camera.
Oh yeah, I feel
Mhm.
like somebody dropped a video of that on
I'm pretty
YouTube.
sure there is somewhere. I've never seen it, but yeah, it's funny enough, I never got to go on that house because at the time I had only bought a one night ticket, and that was just one of the houses I never got a chance to go to because it was a really busy night.
Yeah, you were kind of
But
like me when it comes to the
yeah, because
original.
I didn't start getting. I think I started getting the Rush of Fear in 22.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me it was 27, but
Mm,
I remember a handful of them. Hopefully.
yeah. But anyway, we're getting close to our final pick. So what is your number two?
Number two is Catacombs Black Death Rising. For me, I really like this house. This was from
21
20,
or
20,
26?
20,
Oh yeah, yeah, you're right. 20. Yeah.
2015. So in 20, go ahead.
Again, I had a feeling that was going to be on there because I know you also have a thing for plague doctors.
Oh yeah, it's kind of unhealthy, guys. But yeah, with plaguey doctors, this house was basically as the title says it, during the Black Plague, in Europe, the whole infection going around, and you go to the catacombs of France and everything in Europe, and then what's cool about this house is that they tend to do this weird thing in this tent. I think it's the one next to Cursed Tent. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
next to Cursed Tent is the one that where they had a lot of the um, comedic things, but I think they had catacombs in that tent.
Okay.
Um, that also housed another house called the Spawning. If you remember that house, I don't know
I
if
do remember
you
that from
experienced.
19, yeah.
So in the Spawning was there before that. So I noticed that there was a pattern that they just tend to use that house for very close and personal scares, where they used to have like these scare actors on the roof, and they would put their hands like on your like close to your face, and then they would also have like these little droopy things on your fucking face, and it was like nasty and wet and it's gross. But anyway, with Catacombs Black Death Rising, you were walking through catacombs, lots of skulls, lots of nice little bodies laying on the walls and shit. But then you see doctors coming at you, and they're coughing on you, and it's gross. And I
Especially
remember,
now. It's terrifying. You're like, fuck you, 6 feet, motherfucker.
yeah. And then I remember through the one run through. I think it was the one, yeah, the only run through I had. This plague doctor was doing his coughing gag on me, and I was grossed out. But he accidentally pecks me with his mask
Oh no.
on my head, and I'm like short as fuck, and I'm like, "Excuse me, hi." And then then like they went to the shadows. I'm pretty sure they were sorry, but it was
Yeah.
really cool because it's just you got to see like the plague manifests itself, and you just
Hmm.
see plague doctors getting sick, and they're trying to treat patients, but it's like it's just infecting so quickly, and you just see other people getting sick. I thought it was really interesting take on history and making it scary.
Very
Something
cool.
of a more of a something that we already experienced today. Hi, 2020.
I.
Yeah, but it's definitely on there. It's one of my favorites because it has a lot of historical value, and of course, it was scary in a sense that we get to feel that we lived through the plague, even though we
Yeah, for
didn't live
sure.
during that time. But we now know because
We
they told the future. I
technically
know.
did.
No, you know what's crazy? I will always stay by this. I'm sorry I have to say their name. I'm not trying to give them clout, but I swear, Academy of Villains brought that shit. Because they had a plague doctor, they had like infection stuff going around in their show, like infection themes, and then what do we get the next day? A fucking pandemic. Like it's just like no, they fucking called that shit. They manifested that shit, and we were out for blood. And yeah, so but we still got them out. So good job, team. But either
Nice.
way, I will always say that they just manifest that shit into the air. We just got a horrible pandemic. Either way, what is your number two?
So my number two, and I promise is the last one in that area for the sprung tent. That is
Jesus Christ.
It's my last one. I promise. Promise. That is La Llorona.
Bye.
La Llorona had a really, really nice facade with the whole Mexican church, as well as occasionally they would play that projection of the woman, the crying woman, which is really creepy because like halfway through she would change. And also I really like that urban legend of La Llorona. Like it's really creepy to me, and it's like I don't know. I just don't like. I like thinking about it, but at the same time I don't because it's really really creepy. But yeah, the facade was amazing for it. I loved it. I love how immersive it got. I really like the architecture of like the way they set up that house because at first you do go in through the church, you see all the pews, you see some of the people with like white sheets over them, very similar to Insidious. And again, some of them were statues, some of them were real people. And of course, because Halloween Horror Nights loves to do this, they kept switching them around. So sometimes they would be on your left, sometimes they would be on your right, sometimes they would be on both sides. So that was really cool, and like going into like the catacombs of the church and like seeing the woman, seeing sometimes you would see the kids crying, which was really creepy. And then eventually you would come out of the church and then you would be like in the swamp or like this really dark forest. And that's when it gets even creepier because there's like the sound of crying kids all around you. Then there's also the crying woman around you, and then she's popping up left and right. She gets like more and more disturbing because at one point she gets like really, really tall. It's like an actor on stilts. And that was really creepy because it's like literally this giant lady with like long flowing black hair just coming at you while crying, but also like scream crying. And you're like, fuck no, get away. Don't touch me. So yeah, like I left that house really, really scared. And it's very funny enough. It was similar to Universal Monsters, where you think it's over, and then at the end it has like one final scare for you, and you're like, nope, that's it, I'm done. Nope,
Yep.
nope.
Oh man. But the thing is, like, this is like my Tooth Fairy. Like your reaction to Tooth Fairy.
Okay.
It's like La Llorona. Really? Like, oh no, I experienced La Llorona, and I was really expecting something horrifying, and it was not. I mean, I'm not gonna say it wasn't scary because I got scared at everything, but it was just like I feel like they could have done better. The reason why I say this, and all with all due respect, but Hollywood has owned La Llorona, but they have tried to salvage it because remind you that they have a really strong population of Mexicans over there in California, which I feel like it works for Universal. But I feel like the one time that they brought it over here, it just was not received well. And I feel like if they'd done a little, just a tad bit better with that house, I feel like they could potentially get La Llorona as an icon. Because I feel like La Llorona is like some type of icon over there. Because she has popped up maybe, and well, in the research that I've done, like around close to 4 times for the
Wow,
Hollywood
really that
event.
many?
Yeah, 4
Wow.
times. But we haven't gotten lick.
When are we gonna
of
get
them.
like? When are we gonna get like a Puerto Rican house? Because I want to get a house based on El Cuco.
The Cuckoo Scream. I almost said that Chupacabra, but I was like, wait, that's the
That's like
Mexican.
yeah, but
Yeah.
also that would also be creepy.
Yeah, Chupacabra.
Chupacabra, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can see your point. I know that it wasn't like a super big fan favorite house. I still liked it. It
Honestly,
was like a guilty pleasure of mine. I really enjoyed going through it. I thought it was really scary, and yeah, that's
like
just me.
La Llorona is almost the equivalent of our Bloody Mary. Like I feel like that,
Yeah, she kind
yeah,
of yeah. She's like
in
the
a weird
She's
way.
like the Latino version of Bloody Mary.
Yeah, so
Kind
that
of, yeah,
we were crazy and we drown our kids apparently. Well, Latinos. Well, I'm not
yeah.
Mexican, but in a sense. But then you cheat on your wife and we go crazy and we want you to say our name 3 times and then we come at you and then you die. It's
Just don't cheat on your
women are
wife.
scary, so
Just don't cheat on your wife.
yeah, don't cheat on your wife.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Bloody Mary just wanted to be loved. In the urban legend, of course, the one Dr. Maria Gana was a completely different person, but yes.
So
But
it is time for your number one. I'm excited to know what your number one is because I honestly I don't have an idea as to what it could be.
that's a whole ass lie.
I'm serious. I once I hear it, I'll be like, oh no, that makes sense. But I honestly can't think of what it could be right now.
Anyway, my number one is his number one, and that is Leave It to Cleaver.
Oh, I didn't realize we had the same number one.
Yeah,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah. So, mine is Leave It to Cleaver because it was my first year, and it was the house of Howling Horror Nights that basically made the event for me. That it convinced me to come back because it scared me so bad. I am terrified of. I am disgusted and terrified of places that have to do with meaderies with raw meat, and I am terrified of those places because I think exactly that they can have a disassembled body somewhere. They're probably storing some weird human meat in all our foods and all this other stuff. Like it is my worst nightmare, but I think this one just gave it just a trigger, and it was just like I hate even walking through meat places even more. Thanks. But the one thing that I will tell you that I do remember, the one scare actor that made it was another short scare actor. See, like all these short scare actors be getting me. Is she was up on a little stage thing, and it was like a room where it was in the front of the meadery place, and she was like just as a little girl, but with pigtails. But then she had a butcher knife, then when I was 13 at the time, and this character, her trigger, she put her knife close to my neck and then like
Oh,
pretend to
yeah.
slice it.
I remember
And
that, yeah.
then I was like, ah, fuck. And then and I was screaming bloody murder. And then, of course, you walk through the meat place and you have all the plastic on you. You see you really butcher guys just all gross and it's so bad. It is. I feel like there was also pig heads, if I remember correctly. There was also like pig
I
heads
think there
on the
might have been.
butchers.
There might have
Like
been.
some, like yeah, and then of course you see Mr. Meats with the chainsaw, and like it's all fun and games. But then I think that was the first house that had made me fully cry at Halloween Horror Nights. So yeah, tell me your favorite story for
Okay,
Leave It to
so
Cleaver.
what I like about Leave It to Cleaver is I am a sucker for the dark comedy aspect that it had. Like the old like 50s style commercials, but you could tell that there was like a weird edge to them like during
Yeah,
the whole projection screen like before you entered the house. I thought that was really cool because it was all these like old black and white 50s style commercials of like, would you like to know what the nicest meat in the world is? Like the like that type of voice and everything. I'm like
hmm
I'm a sucker for that kind of like Americana stuff. Um and again, I like the dark comedy similar to like Texas Chainsaw 2 where this guy was like a super great chili cook, and of course his chili is made out of human body parts. Um,
yeah,
and in here, it was made literally with hobos. Like he would give them homes and feed them and literally fatten them up before sending them to the slaughter.
yeah. It's just so
Yeah.
odd.
And I think one of my favorite moments was when we were walking like that by like the sausage making room, and one of the guys shows up, and of course they're all wearing like the meaty meats mask, which was all like really creepy because like everybody was wearing it. And he just comes and bangs his like a knife on one of the tanks like next to us, and he's like, "Do you want to know how we make the pepperoni? You're the pepperoni."
Yeah. I remember that. Oh
Yeah.
my god. Just see like that's the house that kind of stuck out to me a lot, especially besides HR Blood and Guts, which is in the same. That was the
Same
same
area.
room. It was the comedic house that was always there before they
Yeah.
changed it up to behind Men in Black. I don't think the one in Men in Black was always there, right? Or no?
No, I think the first time I remember they were using it was for one of the Bloomhouse, either Bloomhouse or Happy Death Day, one of those.
So or Hive? No, not Hive.
No, Hive was one of the Sprung tents.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
but I really like that. I like the ending of how you end up at the butcher shop, and then he's like, y'all have a nice day now, and then that's when Mr. Meats comes out and just scares the living shit out of you.
With the chainsaw.
Yep, with a chainsaw. And
Then
I'm very happy.
After
I'm very happy they.
literally-
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, literally after every anniversary house, they always have a fucking Mr. Meats at the end.
Yes.
Always. During 25, I'm like, bro, stop. Like, I hate that guy. Like, it's like that house, like, traumatized me. It's my favorite, but stop.
Yeah, I love that he's become kind of like this little cult favorite. I love that he shows up at the end of every single anniversary house, and every time I see him, I'm like, it's Mr. Meats. Look at him.
Yeah.
He's so cute. He's like Big Boy, but evil.
Oh my god. It's such a creepy little piece of shit. But, I love it. I love that house. I love Leave It to Cleaver. It was definitely like a stamp to
Oh, yeah.
what is to be the rest of my HHN. I haven't missed one yet.
Like, a house,
crazy.
literally a house from 2009 stuck with both of us in such a way that we still remember it.
Yeah.
How long has it been? I'm horrible at math. Literally 12 years later, we still think about that house. Like, that's how you know this house was good.
It really be like that though.
Yeah.
But
now I'm curious, did you have any honorable mentions, like any that almost made the cut, but just for some reason didn't?
for me, one of them was definitely Havoc Derailed.
Oh, wow.
It
I forgot that house. Jeez.
Yeah,
Wow.
Havoc Derailed. I
That
feel
brought
like
me
it's
back.
just another baby. It's a little baby to dead exposure. It's just a lot of them. Like instead of being infected with a little virus, they're experimenting on super soldiers, which is why I feel like dead exposure was more of a military type medical patient testing center, like
Could
more
be.
themed. But I know that the story is a little different. But if you go into the front of dead exposure, your industrial music. Sorry, my inner goth is fucking activating. But like literally, like just Staffelstein, is playing. I think it's the song "Hate and Glory" by Just Staffelstein. I literally blast that shit, and I think of that exposure. But I feel like it's a little baby to Havoc Derailed, especially since Havoc Derailed, they are basically training super soldiers, scary super soldiers, so scary Captain Americas. So it was a great house. So I really like the whole aspect of like a Havoc biohazard looking house, military type, and I think those are things I occasionally think about. I was like, damn, one day these military men, they're really gonna be out here for like coming after us, and they're gonna be superhuman. We all fucked, but either way. And other than that,
Funny enough, I do remember that one section where because it's all set in a train, and I remember the one section where they had attacked the train and the train was flipped upside down, so like you would look up and everything above you was stuff that like like a desk that was already bolted to the floor, so like everything above you was the stuff that should have been on the floor, but it
yeah.
wasn't.
Damn, yeah. I mean, it was a really weird honorable mention because I was like, but I do remember a lot of it because it was just like, damn, like this looks intense, and of
Yeah.
course, scary tales for me, scary tales for obvious reasons, fairy tale stuff, twisted twists on it, like who
Yeah.
doesn't like that shit?
Exactly.
As if the Grimm brothers already didn't make it fucked up enough. Universal wanted to fuck it up more.
They're like crank it up to 11.
Yep. But what are your honorable mentions? I'm pretty sure you have a longer list than I do.
I have 5 on my honorable mentions. The first one on there I already talked about. It's Slaughter Cinema. I really like Slaughter Cinema. It's very fun. It's very much that comedy house for me. I also really like the little critters ripoff with like all the little nibbler creatures, especially like the big
Yeah.
animatronic one at the end was really good. So yeah, that was a really fun house. There are some that I just found a lot more scary and immersive than just that one. But anyway,
Yeah.
moving on. Next one I have is Yeti, Terror of the Yukon. I really liked the setting for this house. Not a lot of houses are set during, snowstorms and blizzards and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I also, it kind of reminded me of The Thing with like that sense of isolation of like, if something happens, you are miles away from any help and like you're pretty much fucked.
And no one's gonna remember you. And then if you have family, well, should
Yeah.
have left a note.
Not to mention that one kill where the Yeti rams his hand through the guy's chest, which is really cool. I liked that effect a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then my
Besides that house, one thing I gotta say about that house, there's still that one messed up scene that
I think
looks
I know exactly what you're talking about.
awful.
I know
I was just
exactly what
every
you're talking
time I'm
about.
like, yo, this is very universal. This is straight up furry porn. Like,
Funny enough, I remember you, me, and Jacqueline talking about that for like an extended amount of time and just being like, you saw that too, right? Like, it wasn't just me.
yeah, like I was like, because there's a part where there's a girl that's screaming for help, pulling out her hand, and then all you see is the Yeti behind her, and it looks like he's doing some gestures,
Yeah, it looks a
but
little
he's actually just
suggestive.
pulling her back to like attack her, but it looks a
Well,
whole
it's
nother.
also the fact that we have like the minds. We both have the minds of like 13-year-olds. We're like, looks like we look at what he's doing to her.
Yeah, it was awful. I promise it this wasn't on purpose. This is just what it looked like from our
Yeah,
end.
yeah,
And we're just like, yo, they really need to change this up because if
yeah.
they're gonna think like 13-year-olds like us, like that ain't a cute look. But
Yeah.
that's just me though.
But my next one, also said during the snow. Funny enough, is Body Collector's Recollections. I really like the idea of the body collectors. I like their concept. I kind of like to think that they work for the caretaker or like they work with the caretaker because they kind of do the
Yeah.
same thing of like harvesting body parts and stuff like that. And also, I like that this is actually I think this was the first time I got to go into Shady Brook. Because this is the
Um.
one that was set during a snowstorm in Shady Brook, and it was really cool because they also play with like ghosts outside of the body collectors. And there was also the infamous surgery room scene where the guy, like one of the collectors, is ripping out somebody's spine and then looking at you while he's doing it. I'm like, good for you. Thanks
Yeah.
for that. Yeah, so that
He's
one
a
was really good.
chiropractor.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
There you
it's just
go.
intense. It's just intense back surgery. That's
Yeah. Oh
all it
my
was.
God.
But yeah,
Yeah, and
that
now
was a
that
good
when you
house.
said that, it literally brought me back to that one scene. I don't remember the house, but I do remember that specific scene,
Hmm.
and I don't remember seeing where seeing it from, but I do remember that there was a scare actor, there was a medical table, and it was just like, fuck, like, fuck. I was like, what the hell is this? But I always thought those
Damn.
gags were so cool, though.
Hmm.
I always fucking thought those gags were so like
Especially
anybody.
especially with the water effects.
Yeah, I like for me, it's just every time they put someone on a fucking table and someone's on top of them performing some type of surgery, which is what I'm surprised that they didn't do for House of a Thousand Corpses with Dr. Satan.
Apparently they
Yeah,
did, but it was only on like certain runs. Like you had to get really lucky to like to see that because they only did it
with another
occasionally.
scare actor with the
Hmm.
victim.
Yeah,
Like literally, I didn't. I always got it with just the body of
with
them
yeah,
doing this.
with just Doctor Satan. Yeah, that's how I got it too. But apparently, I've heard this from a couple people where they they saw another scare actor with Dr. Satan.
Yeah, those are so cool though. I love those gags
Yeah, me
and
too.
when they do that.
But then my next to last one, this one was actually really, really close. That was Dollhouse of the Damned.
See, another one I don't remember, and everybody talks
Yeah,
about it.
that's my problem with this one. This is one I only got to go in once, and I don't remember that much about it, except for two things. The absolutely awful smell of shit that at one point actually made me nauseous.
Everybody talks about
And
that. Yeah,
and the fucking giant baby in like the diaper and like the smell of
nice,
like
nice.
poop and like baby powder and so I was like, this is the worst mix in the world.
Yeah, I would have enjoyed that house because not because of the smell, but it's more because it's just a lot of dollhouse stuff, and I'm a sucker for cursed and evil dolls, and I'm like, like I would have enjoyed it, but I just wish I appreciated it more. Maybe this was like one of the earlier years that I just don't remember,
Mm,
and I was just
yeah,
a
because I think
kid,
this was
so
like
yeah.
yeah, I think this was like 22 or 23 when this one came out.
22, 23.
Yeah,
Well,
one of those
but there was
series.
also a lot of high IPs. It was heavy. It
Mm-hmm.
was heavy IPs those
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, it's one of those where again, I wish I had a time machine so I could go back and just experience that house a couple more times and like really get a feel for it.
Yeah.
And then the last one is one that is near and dear to my heart, and that is Scary Tales Once Upon a Nightmare from Halloween Horror Nights 18. Reason for that being that was my first ever Halloween Horror Nights house. So that one will always hold a special place for me. I remember being terrified and being like, "Oh my God, have I made a mistake by coming to this?"
Yeah.
Especially, I remember the one area that was supposed to be inspired by Jack and the Beanstalk, and there's a bunch of beanstalks, and it's similar to Seeds of Extinction, where some of them are humans, like dressed up as beanstalks, and they come at you.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I remember that like very, very vividly. But yeah, it's just like the fact that that literally started my Horror Nights obsession. So like that will forever hold a place in my heart.
I don't even remember my first house. I just started wherever. I didn't believe in the whole start from the back bullshit. Like it was just more like whatever house is the lowest,
Mm,
and that's where we start. And I don't remember. I just remember waiting in line, and I know that Leave It to Cleaver was definitely like third house I
mm.
experienced, but there was some that I experienced before. But yeah, I'd never experienced the original Scary Tale, so good for you. Like
Yeah, it was
that's
really
great.
nice. Especially because I remember because I went the first time I ever went to Halloween Horror Nights. I think like the first like 3 years I went to Halloween Horror Nights, I went with a friend of mine from high school, and I remember looking at the map for the first time and being like, okay, let's walk through some of the scare zones, like see what this is like, and then we'll go to a house. We'll look through them and we'll see what looks like the least scariest house, and we'll start from there.
Oh my god.
And Scary Tales was fucking terrifying.
Yeah, the least scariest house. Oh,
Because
lies.
I was like, oh, it's fairy tales, and we had seen like the Scary Tales scare zone. I was like, this doesn't look too bad. This looks pretty cool. We made a mistake.
Mm. I thought it was gonna be maybe a little bit similar to what they did with. I don't remember if that was a Scary Tales related scare zone. I know it wasn't from the same year we're talking about, but remember when they had that like scare zone where they had all the fairy tales, and like I had a friend who was technically Belle, and she was like a hunter, like she was gonna like with
um,
the beast and all that
it
stuff. Do you
was it
remember?
was similar to that, but that one you're talking about, it was like a steampunk version of that.
Ah,
But like the one I'm talking about,
so
it was like super simple. It was literally just like the same characters from Scary Tales just walking around with the Woody Woodpecker Zone.
nice, nice,
Yeah,
nice.
so like people would like get to see them, outside of the house, and it was really cool. I like them because that they were super interactive with the crowd. Like they would just walk around, follow people, like stop for a lot of pictures and that kind of stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's my last one. And
Yeah.
we have reached the end of that. We both went through our top 10 HHN originals. There were
Yeah.
some interesting. reasons for them being in there, I think, for both of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a really good
Good
time
enough for
talking
him.
about it. Wow, thanks. Okay. But yeah, I had a
Fairy for
really,
me, okay. Jesus, God.
but yeah, we had a good time doing this.
Yeah.
But you know, it is time for us to do our shameless plugs of each other. So, Vanya, where can you be found?
You can find me on YouTube and on Twitter as HHN Cultist. I do makeups, vlogs, and do any updates that is Universal Horror or Halloween Horror Nights related. So if that's something you're interested in, check me out. So check me out, check me out, check me out. I'm not kidding. Beep, bop, beep, bada, bom, boom, bow. Oh, kidding. But either way, but where can we find you, Yusuf?
Yes. So for our podcast, for our socials, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And then if you want to listen to our podcast, we are on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube as well. And then for my personal stuff, you can find me on Twitter at itbeyusef and my Instagram at yusef1220. And actually, before we leave this episode, I know for the last week we had a new hashtag. It was hashtag KinkyHHN, and we asked everybody to give us a sentence or just give us something related to KinkyHHN. And we got one submission, and I want to read it out here. It says, Fear saying he is inside all of us and he demands more.
Oh, I'm screaming.
And you know
Oh
what?
no.
I love that. I wanna thank. Let me look up the name real quick. I still have it on here. Let me see who made that one so I can thank them. That was Riverscale. They are at Riverscale_art. They have really cool drawings. I really recommend that you guys check them out. But yeah, their hashtag was pretty funny. I really liked it, and yeah, I was like, I gotta talk about this one.
Yeah, that's
But you know,
awesome.
we already talked about it. Our current hashtag for this week is Squishmiddle.
Fish metal.
So tell us your
Yeah.
best Squishmiddle stories, and who knows, one of them might show up in our next episode.
Yeah, so with your Squishmallow, just to give you guys a little bit of an elaboration, it is just basically you're the middle in your group and you got really scared, and you know the scare actors keep picking on you and you keep getting scared, and we like to see those interactions and your reactions, so please include those in there as a Squishmallow.
Yes,
So
yes, yes. Please, we want to know about more Squishmiddle stories.
yeah,
But yes, with this, we leave you, and we bid you all a very good night.
yes, and
And
stay spooky, guys.
yes, keep it spooky. All right, bye, everybody.